Jeremy heard the first shout before he reached the top of the stairs. It wasn't a normal shout. It was sharp, ugly, and full of anger. It came from his mother's room, the room with the soft lavender curtains, the room where sunlight always fell gently on her wheelchair, the room he told the staff must stay peaceful at all times. Another shout cut the air, then a slap. Then his mother's voice, shaking, "Olivia, please, please stop." Jeremy's heart slammed against his chest. He moved on instinct, his leather shoes silent on the thick hallway rug. He reached the door and pressed his palm to the wood. The handle felt cold. He turned it slightly and opened the door just enough to see inside. What he saw almost tore his heart in two. Olivia, his wife, stood over his mother with one hand bracing a wall and the other hand raised high, holding a bathroom slipper. Madame Adana was in her wheelchair, hands trembling, grey scarf loose around her head. Her eyes were wet with tears. She looked small and afraid. The slipper came down with a clap against Madame Adana's shoulder. "Keep quiet," Olivia hissed. "You will respect me in this house." Jeremy didn't think. He pushed the door wide. It hit the stopper with a bang. Olivia turned. The slipper fell from her hand and slapped the floor. For one long second, nobody breathed. Then 10 hours earlier, Lagos was still waking up when Jeremy's jet touched down. He hadn't told anyone he was coming. No driver, no PA, no security convoy. He wanted silence. He wanted truth. He wanted to walk into his own home and see it as it really was. Not as people made it look when the ogre was around. He had learned to love silence in boardrooms and on flights. It helped him listen to things that did not speak. Numbers, trends, small signs that told big stories. Silence had built his telecom empire. Silence had also worried him for months about his family. He thought of the last video call with his mother. She had smiled, but it was a thin smile, like someone holding pain between their teeth. Behind her, the camera had shaken a little before Olivia stepped into view. "Darling, you're traveling again." "Don't stress yourself," Olivia had said, sweet voice, perfect lips, golden Ankara, everything in place. She always looked perfect for the camera. "We are fine." Fine. But after the call, Tunda, the driver who had served the family for 10 years, had sent Jeremy a short message. "Sir, Madam and Mama sometimes argue. I no fit lie." It is getting worse. Tunde never gossiped. He never sent messages like that. Another time, one of the nurses who came to check Madame Adana's blood pressure had left a note under the flower vase. "Please ask me privately about Mama's care," but when Jeremy tried to call, the line didn't go through again. Number switched off. Nurse gone. There were other signs. The camera near his mother's door spoiled for 3 weeks in a row. The head housekeeper resigned quickly and left a "God bless you" on the kitchen whiteboard. His mother's favorite wrapper went missing, and when he asked about it, Olivia laughed and said, "Maybe she hid it herself. You know old people." The laugh didn't reach her eyes. Jeremy was not a foolish man. He just loved too deeply, and love can make a smart man slow. He had sworn long ago never to raise his hand against a woman. He had seen his mother survive things no woman should ever face, and he promised himself he would be a different kind of man. That promise had become part of him, like breath. It also made him patient, maybe too patient. So he came home unannounced. He left the airport alone, wore a plain cap, and sat at the back of a regular taxi. Lagos morning rose around him, Danfoss weaving, street sellers holding bread, the smell of rain that did not fall. He thought about the first day he met Olivia at a tech gala. She was striking and kind in public, quick with a smile, full of charm. She loved to plan charity events and post beautiful captions. People called them a power couple. He believed it. He wanted it to be true. By the time the taxi turned into his estate in Ikoyi, he had arranged his face into calm. He tipped the driver well and walked through the gate by himself. The guard blinked twice and then saluted. Jeremy smiled gently. "No noise," he said. "I want to surprise my family." He moved through the house like a shadow. He saw things people don't show the boss. The undone dishes by the back sink, a cushion on the floor, a half-empty glass on a console table. He noticed quiet, an uneasy quiet, like a stage before a bad scene. He climbed the stairs. That was when he heard the first shout. Now he stood in the doorway, eyes on his wife, mind burning. Olivia's face drained of color. Her lips trembled. She slowly went down on her knees, palms pressed together. "Jeremy, baby, it's not what you think. I was only—" She insulted me. She said I married you for money. Tears gathered instantly, quick like a tap. It was the devil. I swear, it was the devil. Jeremy didn't answer her. He looked at his mother. Madame Adana tried to smile at him, the way mothers smile to make their children feel safe. But her smile shook. A red mark was rising on her shoulder. She pulled her wrapper higher to hide it. "My son," she whispered, "you are home." Jeremy's throat tightened. He walked to her, took out a handkerchief, and gently wiped her cheeks. "Mama, I'm sorry," he said softly. "I'm sorry I did not see what I should have seen." Olivia crawled closer, the marble floor cool under her knees. "Jeremy, please. Please forgive me. It's stress. I'm tired. She never respects me. You're always traveling and people in this house—" She pointed toward the door as if staff were hiding there. "They make me look bad. Monica said I should be firm." Jeremy's head snapped. Monica! The name slid into the room like a shadow. He remembered the party girl with expensive wigs and louder opinions. He remembered how, after Monica started visiting often, the cameras started spoiling. He turned to Olivia fully for the first time. His voice was calm, and that calm made the room colder. "Stand up." Olivia stood slowly, shaking. "Mama," Jeremy said, still not looking away from Olivia, "did she hit you before today?" Madame Adana hesitated, then nodded once, very small, as if her neck were made of fragile glass. Olivia pressed her hands together again. "Baby, I'm sorry. It was the devil." "Stop calling the devil into a house you prepared yourself," Jeremy said, a hard edge in his voice now. It was the voice that made competitors step back. "If you can lift your hand against the woman who raised me, you can do anything." A sound came from the doorway. 2 young housemaids had appeared and now stood frozen, eyes wide. Behind them, Tunde peeped, jaw clenched. Jeremy's gaze moved to them and softened. "Close the door," he said. "No one enters. No one leaves." The door clicked shut. Jeremy took his phone from his pocket. His hand didn't shake. He scrolled to a number labeled Cola. Lawyer. His thumb hovered over the call button. Olivia's eyes widened. "Jeremy, please, no, don't call him. We can fix this. I'll apologize to Mama. I'll never in my life." Her voice broke into a sob. She hit her chest with her fist, like someone trying to wake a sleepy heart. "I was angry. I was foolish. It was—" "The devil?" Jeremy asked. Silence. He looked at his mother, the woman who taught him not to use power to crush those weaker than him. The woman who sat on a broken wooden chair many years ago and told him, "Promise me you will never be the man who throws his pain at a woman." He looked at the fresh mark on her shoulder. It was small. The pain behind it was not. He pressed call. "Barrister Cola," he said when the line picked up, voice steady. "Come to my house now. Bring the papers." Olivia gasped like the air had left the world. "Jeremy, please, don't do this. Don't—" She crawled forward and grabbed his trouser leg. "Baby, I will change. I swear, I will change." Jeremy pulled his leg free. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lift his hand. He didn't move toward her at all. He moved toward his mother. He placed his palm on the wheelchair handle, as if shielding her with his body. Outside, somewhere in the garden, a bird sang a small song. The sound felt wrong inside the room. Jeremy ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. He looked at Olivia. "Pack your things." Olivia's mouth fell open. Where will I go?" Jeremy's jaw tightened. "Anywhere that is not near my mother." Her tears ran freely now, streaking her makeup. She reached toward Madame Adana. "Mama, please, say something for me. I'm sorry. I lost myself. I don't know what came over me. Please tell him not to send me away." Madame Adana's fingers twisted in her wrapper. She was a kind woman, even to people who hurt her. She opened her mouth, pain and pity wrestling in her eyes. Before she could speak, a loud knock shook the bedroom door. 3 heavy beats. Then a voice, firm and official, came from the hallway. "Sir, it's security. There is a woman at the gate asking for Madame Olivia. She says her name is Monica." Jeremy's head turned toward the door. Olivia's eyes flashed fear, raw, quick, secret. Tunda glanced at Jeremy, waiting for instruction. Jeremy rested both hands on the wheelchair handles, drawing a slow breath. The house felt like glass about to crack. "Let her in," he said, voice low. The door opened, and as Monica's heels clicked on the hallway tile, Olivia swayed on her feet, her lips shaping a whisper only she could hear. "Oh God, what has she come to say?" The soft tap of Monica's heels echoed down the corridor like warning drums. Jeremy's hand tightened on his mother's wheelchair. Olivia stood frozen, her eyes wide with guilt and fear. A second later, Monica appeared at the door, tall, beautiful and bold. Her long black weave brushed her shoulders, and her lips were painted the color of danger. She smiled when she saw Jeremy, but that smile faded the moment her eyes caught the slipper on the floor and the red mark on Madame Adana's arm. "Good morning, Mr. Anderson," she said carefully. "I didn't know you were back." Jeremy's expression didn't change. Clearly. Monica's gaze darted toward Olivia, who stood trembling, her hands clasped in front of her. Olivia looked as if she wanted the floor to swallow her. "Monica," Jeremy said evenly, "what are you doing here?" Monica blinked, pretending to act surprised. I came to check on Olivia. She told me Mama hasn't been feeling well." "Really?" Jeremy's tone was calm, but cold. "And how would you know that?" Olivia's breath hitched. "Jeremy, please." He raised a hand to silence her. "No, Olivia, I want to hear from your friend." Monica tried to keep her voice steady. "I'm just trying to be supportive. You know how stressful things can get when what?" Jeremy stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. "When a woman decides to beat a disabled old woman in her own house. Or when her friend teaches her how to hide it." Monica's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." Jeremy's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something that made Monica's confidence crumble. "Tunda," he called. The driver stepped forward from behind the door. "Sir." "You told me something months ago," Jeremy said, still looking at Monica. "Say it again." Tunda hesitated only a moment. "Sir, I told you Madam and her friend quarrel sometimes with Mama. Sometimes they speak in low voice, sometimes in anger. I hear them say Mama is old trouble. I even see Madam—" He stopped, glancing at Olivia with pity. "I see her push Mama's wheelchair roughly one day." Olivia gasped. "Tunda, you're lying." Tundi shook his head slowly. "I wish I was, Ma." Jeremy looked at his wife one last time. Enough. He turned to his mother, whose trembling hand reached up to touch his arm. "My son, don't let anger eat you," she whispered. "Do what is right, not what is loud." Jeremy nodded slowly, his voice low. "What's right is silence for now." He looked at Olivia. "You'll pack your things. The lawyer is on his way. This marriage ends today." Olivia dropped to the floor, sobbing. "Jeremy, please, don't do this to me. I love you." "I was angry. I didn't mean—" But Jeremy had already turned his wheelchair toward the door. "Mama, you deserve peace. I failed to protect you once. I won't fail again." As he pushed his mother gently out of the room, Olivia screamed his name, her voice breaking into echoes. Monica reached for her friend's arm. "Livy, calm down. Don't touch me," Olivia cried, shoving her hand away. You ruined me. You told me to show her who's boss. You said if I didn't control her, she would control me." Monica's jaw fell open. "I didn't. Olivia, that's not what I—" "Get out," Olivia shouted, her voice cracking under tears. "Get out of this house." Monica grabbed her purse, her fake confidence gone, and hurried out. By evening, the house was quiet, too quiet. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, surrounded by open suitcases. Her hands shook as she folded her dresses, her tears dripping onto the silk. The lawyer came and left without saying much. The divorce papers were signed. Jeremy didn't argue. He didn't shout. His silence hurt more than any words could. When she stepped out of the mansion, the night air hit her like cold punishment. She turned one last time to look at the house. The lights glowing softly inside, the guards standing straight, the place she once called home. Madame Sarah sat on a wooden stool outside her small house in the village, grinding pepper. She was a widow, worn but kind, with hands that had known years of hard work. When she heard footsteps on the path, she looked up and froze. "Olivia," she said softly. Olivia dropped her bags and fell to her knees. "Mama?" Her voice cracked. "I destroyed everything." Madame Sarah's heart broke at the sight of her only child. She ran forward and knelt beside her. "What happened, my daughter?" Olivia cried harder. "I lost him, Mama. Jeremy, he saw me. I hurt his mother. I was so stupid." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "You did what?" Olivia buried her face in her hands. "I don't know what came over me. I shouted at her. I hit her. Mama, I swear I didn't mean to. I don't even know why." Sarah covered her mouth with her shaking hand. "No, no, Olivia. I didn't raise you like that. I taught you kindness. I taught you respect." Olivia nodded miserably. "You did. But I let anger win. Monica told me I should never let his mother talk down to me, that I must show power. Mama, now I've lost everything." Madame Sarah sat back, her chest heavy. "You listened to the wrong friend, my daughter. You forgot humility." For days the story spread through the village, whispers, pointing fingers, quiet laughter behind her back. "That's the woman who beat her husband's mother," people said. "Even money didn't teach her sense." Olivia stopped going outside. The mockery burned like fire. Then, one night, the pain became too much to carry. She wrote a short note, placed it on the table, and uncapped a small bottle of poison she had bought secretly at the market. Her tears fell onto the note as she whispered, "I'm sorry, Mama." Then she drank it. Minutes later, her scream shook the walls. Madame Sarah rushed out of her room in panic. "Olivia!" she screamed, dropping to her knees beside her daughter, who was gasping for air, foam at her mouth. "Help! Somebody help!" Neighbors rushed in. They carried Olivia to the back of a truck and sped toward the hospital under the dim village moonlight. At the emergency ward, the doctor shook his head. "We need surgery immediately. It's going to cost at least 2 million naira." Madame Sarah stared at him, her heart sinking. 2 million. She didn't even have 20,000. She sank to the floor and cried, her old hands clutching Olivia's cold fingers. "My daughter, please don't leave me like this. Please." Hours passed. The nurses said they couldn't begin treatment until payment was made. Madame Sarah wept and prayed quietly, her voice shaking. Then, just before dawn, the ward door opened. 2 shadows fell across the floor, one tall, one seated. Madame Sarah looked up and froze. There was Jeremy, her son-in-law, standing beside Madame Adana in her wheelchair. Tears filled the old woman's eyes. "We heard what happened," she whispered, "and we came." Jeremy walked closer to the bed, his eyes full of sadness. "I couldn't ignore it," he said quietly, "no matter what she did." Madame Sarah trembled, torn between shame and gratitude. You came to save her, after what she did to you." Jeremy nodded. "Everyone deserves a second chance," Mama said. He turned to the doctor. "Do everything necessary. I'll pay for it now." As the doctor hurried off, Madame Adana reached out a frail hand and touched Olivia's arm. "She hurt me deeply," she said softly, "but pain should not end with more pain. If life gives her another chance, I hope she uses it to heal others." Tears rolled down Madame Sarah's cheeks as she whispered, "Amen." The machines beeped softly as the nurses began preparing Olivia for surgery. Jeremy stood by the window, watching the dawn break through the sky, the first light washing the world in gold. He didn't speak, but deep down, something in him shifted, a quiet understanding that forgiveness, too, is a kind of strength. And yet part of him wondered, could Olivia ever truly change? The hospital room smelled of medicine and new hope. Machines beeped softly, nurses moved quietly, and morning light streamed through the blinds like mercy. Olivia lay on the hospital bed, pale and weak, her lips cracked and dry. Tubes ran into her arms. For 2 days, she had floated in and out of consciousness, unaware of who sat beside her. Madame Sarah never left her side. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but she never stopped praying. Sometimes she held Olivia's hand and whispered, "Please God, if you save her, I'll never complain again." On the 3rd morning, the doctor entered the room with a clipboard. "Madam," he said gently to Sarah, "she's responding well. The surgery was successful. Sarah clasped her hands together. "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you." He smiled. "But she needs rest and emotional support. When she wakes up, she'll need people around her." Sarah nodded, wiping her tears. "She won't be alone." Moments later, there was a soft knock at the door. Sarah looked up and her breath caught. Jeremy stood there, tall, calm, but with sadness in his eyes. Beside him, Madame Adana sat in her wheelchair, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The doctor gave a small nod and left the room. The only sound left was the rhythmic hum of the machines. Jeremy stepped forward quietly, his gaze on the fragile woman on the bed. The same woman who once smiled so confidently beside him, who now looked like a broken version of her past self. Madame Sarah stood up immediately, flustered. "Jeremy, my son, you came again?" "Yes, Mama," he said softly. "I wanted to see how she's doing." Sarah hesitated. "After everything she did to you and Mama Adana, you still came?" Jeremy looked at Olivia, his expression unreadable. "I did what I thought was right. I couldn't let her die when I could help." Madame Adana rolled her wheelchair closer to the bed. Her voice was calm but filled with emotion. "A child can lose her way, but if she still breathes, she can find it again." Sarah's tears flowed anew. "You are a good woman," she whispered. "I wish my daughter had been more like you." Madame Adana gave her a gentle smile. "No mother should wish her child away. Just help her learn again." As they spoke, Olivia's hand twitched, a small movement, faint but alive. Then her eyelids fluttered. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Mama," Sarah gasped. "Olivia." "My daughter, you're awake." She leaned over her, tears streaming. Olivia blinked slowly, her blurry eyes adjusting to the light. "Where am I?" "You're in the hospital," Sarah said, brushing her hair gently. "You tried to take your life, but God said no." Olivia's lips trembled. "Why?" "Didn't you let me go?" Sarah sobbed. "Because you're my only child. I can't lose you." Then Olivia's gaze shifted and her eyes widened. There, at the foot of the bed, stood Jeremy, and beside him, Madame Adana. Olivia's heart pounded. Shame washed over her like cold rain. She tried to sit up, but her weak body trembled. "Jeremy." "Mama Adana. What are you doing here?" Jeremy's tone was steady. "We came to save your life." Her eyes filled instantly with tears. You came to save me? After what I did?" Madame Adana nodded. "Because forgiveness is stronger than anger, my child." Olivia began to cry. "I don't deserve it. I hurt you. I hurt everyone who ever cared for me." Jeremy sighed deeply. "You were lost. But life is giving you another chance. Don't waste it." He reached into his jacket and brought out a brown envelope. He placed it gently on the small hospital table. Olivia looked at it, confused. "What's this?" 2 million naira, Jeremy said. "For you to start something new when you recover." Olivia's mouth fell open. Two million. Sarah stared in disbelief. "Ah, Jeremy, my son." He raised a hand. "Please, Mama, don't thank me. This isn't about money. It's about giving her a chance to stand again, and to make things right." Olivia shook her head, tears streaming freely. "I don't deserve this. Not after what I did to your mother." Madame Adana smiled softly. "You are right, you don't. But that's what grace means, getting what you don't deserve." Her words broke Olivia completely. She covered her face and sobbed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Jeremy looked at her one last time. His eyes were kind but distant, like a man who had forgiven but would never return. "Use this life well, Olivia. This is your second chance. Don't destroy it." He turned and began to walk toward the door. Madame Adana followed, her wheelchair wheels moving quietly on the tiled floor. Just before leaving, she turned back and looked at Olivia. "If you truly change, my child, forgiveness will find its way to you." The door closed softly behind them. Olivia recovered slowly. The hospital became her second home, a place where she learned patience again. Madame Sarah stayed with her through every step, reminding her daily that grace doesn't erase consequences, but it gives new beginnings. When she was finally discharged, she stood under the warm village sun, holding the brown envelope in her hands. The money Jeremy had given her felt like both a gift and a responsibility. She took a deep breath. "Mama," she said, "I want to start a business. I want to prove I can change." Sarah smiled weakly. "That's my daughter. What do you want to do?" Olivia looked around at the small community, the dusty road, the women carrying baskets, the children running with bare feet. "I'll open a grocery store, something clean, fair, where everyone can buy food without feeling cheated." Sarah's eyes glistened. "That sounds right." And so Olivia began again. She rented a small shop by the roadside. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest. She cleaned it herself, painted the walls yellow, and arranged shelves with rice, beans, gari, and tinned tomatoes. People were skeptical at first. Some laughed, saying, "The Lagos madam has turned to shopkeeper." But Olivia didn't care. Every morning she swept the front of her store and greeted her customers with a new smile, a humble one. She helped old women carry their bags, gave sweets to children, and refused to cheat anyone. Slowly, the laughter stopped. The same villagers who mocked her began to respect her. Her store grew busier each day. One evening, as she locked up the shop, a little girl approached her with a basket of oranges. "Auntie Olivia," she said shyly, "Mama said you're kind. She said you gave her free rice when she had no money." Olivia smiled and crouched down to her height. "Tell Mama she owes me nothing. Just be good to others." The girl nodded happily and ran off. Olivia stood watching her go, the sunset painting the sky orange and gold. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. Maybe, just maybe, she could still become someone better. But deep inside her, a quiet fear remained. Would Jeremy ever forgive her completely? Would she ever be able to look him in the eye again without shame? She didn't know. But one thing was certain. She would spend the rest of her life proving she was no longer the woman who once lifted a slipper against a mother's love. The sun rose gently over the village, spilling golden light across the red earth. Birds sang from mango trees, children laughed on their way to school, and in the middle of the busy street, a small signboard read. It was simple, hand-painted by a local artist, but every time Olivia looked at it, her chest filled with quiet pride. Inside the store, neat shelves held bags of rice, beans, sugar, and palm oil. The air smelled of hope mixed with soap and ripe fruits. Customers came and went with smiles, some still whispering about the woman who had once lost everything, but somehow found herself again. "Good morning, Auntie Olivia," a boy called as he ran in with a small basket. "Good morning, Junior," she answered warmly, handing him a sachet of milk. "Tell your mother I added extra sugar today, for her tea." He grinned, showing missing front teeth. "Thank you, Ma." As he dashed out, Olivia leaned on the counter for a moment and smiled. Her mother, Madame Sarah, sat in the corner counting change, her old wrapper tied neatly, her eyes proud but still watchful. "You've done well, my daughter," she said softly. "This shop has brought peace back into this house." Olivia sighed, glancing toward the window where sunlight flickered on the dusty road. "It's God, Mama, and Jeremy. Without his help, I wouldn't even be standing here." Sarah nodded slowly. "Yes, but remember, child, he gave you a second chance. The rest, you built with your own hands." Olivia smiled faintly, but inside her heart, a storm brewed quietly. Every night after the shop closed and the village went still, she still dreamed of that day. The door opening, Jeremy's face filled with disbelief, her own voice crying for forgiveness. She still heard his mother's sobs. Even though he had forgiven her, the memory still stung. One late afternoon, a shiny black SUV stopped in front of the shop. The engine purred like a well-fed lion. Curious villagers paused mid-conversation. A door opened and a tall woman stepped out, dressed in a clean white doctor's coat. Her brown skin glowed in the sunlight. People began to whisper, "Who is she?" "Maybe a government health worker." Olivia came out from behind the counter, brushing her apron. The woman smiled warmly. "Good afternoon. Are you Mrs. Olivia?" Olivia nodded cautiously. "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" The woman's eyes were kind. "My name is Dr. Sophia. I'm from Lagos. I came with a medical team for a community health program." Olivia smiled politely. "That's wonderful. You're welcome to our village. Sophia's smile widened. Thank you. Actually, someone told me to stop by here. Who? Just then, the car door on the other side opened, and when the man stepped out, Olivia's heart froze. It was Jeremy. For a second, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. He looked the same, calm, confident, but there was something new in his eyes, something softer. The villagers gasped quietly. Everyone knew the story of Olivia's fall, and now they stood still, watching the billionaire who once left her standing in the rain return to her humble shop. Olivia's hands trembled. Jeremy. He gave her a small nod. Olivia. She swallowed hard. You came here. I did, he said, stepping closer. We're hosting a medical outreach with Sophia's foundation, and… His voice lowered. I heard what you've done here, the grocery store, the way you help people. Her eyes glistened with tears. You heard about that? Yes, he said simply. Mama Adana told me. At the mention of his mother, Olivia's knees felt weak. How is she? Jeremy smiled faintly. She's better. She forgave you long ago. She even prays for you every morning. Olivia covered her mouth as tears spilled freely down her cheeks. I don't deserve that kind of mercy. Sophia, standing beside Jeremy, placed a gentle hand on Olivia's shoulder. Sometimes mercy finds us even when we run from it, she said kindly. Olivia looked at her, really looked at her, and something in her chest shifted. There was a quiet grace about this woman, a peace she couldn't describe. Jeremy turned slightly. Sophia and we got married a few months ago. The words hit Olivia like a breeze, not painful, just real. She blinked back tears, forcing a small smile. Congratulations, she whispered. She's beautiful. Sophia blushed. Thank you, and Jeremy told me everything. About what happened, about the past. I'm glad he did. Olivia looked at the ground, ashamed. I made terrible mistakes. I hurt both of you. Jeremy's voice was calm. Yes, you did. But you also changed. That's what matters now. There was silence for a moment, the kind that carries peace instead of tension. Then Jeremy reached into his jacket pocket and brought out a small envelope. Mama Adana wanted you to have this. Olivia hesitated before taking it. Inside was a letter written in her neat, old-fashioned handwriting. My daughter, I forgave you the day you hurt me because I saw fear in your eyes, not wickedness. God has given you a second chance. Don't waste it. Live well, love others, and when you see my son again, tell him that forgiveness healed me more than medicine ever could. By the time Olivia finished reading, her face was wet with tears. Sophia touched her arm softly. She's proud of you, Olivia. So are we. Olivia's voice broke. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jeremy smiled gently. Take care of yourself. And your shop. You've done well. Then he turned toward his car, guiding Sophia with him. But before he entered, he looked back one last time. Goodbye, Olivia. I wish you peace. Goodbye, Jeremy, she whispered, voice trembling but full of truth. And thank you for everything. As the SUV drove away, Olivia stood still, the letter pressed to her heart. Her mother came out of the shop, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Who was that fine couple? Olivia smiled through her tears. That was the man I hurt. And the woman who taught me what real forgiveness looks like. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Then you must live like both of them taught you, with grace and peace. Olivia looked around her small shop, her heart swelling with gratitude. I will, Mama, I promise. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if she would ever see them again. But that day, as the wind carried the sound of laughter from the children outside, she finally felt free. Free from shame, free from guilt, free to live again. And though she didn't realize it yet, that single act of kindness she showed to one poor woman the next morning would soon change her life forever. The morning breeze carried the scent of wet earth and roasted corn. Birds hopped across power lines, and the gentle hum of life filled the small village. It had been 2 years since Olivia opened her grocery store, and her story had become something of a legend. The tale of a woman who fell from grace and found her way back through humility and kindness. Inside Olivia's fresh mart, customers filled the aisles, laughing and chatting. The shop had grown, new shelves, new goods, even a small fridge for cold drinks. On one wall hung a small photo of Madame Adana, framed in gold, with the words, "Olivia dusted the frame every morning." She said it reminded her of where she came from. Her mother, Madame Sarah, sat on a wooden stool by the door, peeling oranges and smiling as villagers greeted her. "Ah, Mama Olivia, you look younger every day," one woman teased. Sarah chuckled softly. "It's peace that makes me look young, my dear. Peace and forgiveness." Olivia looked up from the counter and smiled. "Mama, you always say that." "And I'll keep saying it," Sarah replied, "because it's true." They shared a small laugh, the kind that comes only after pain has passed through fire and turned into something gentle. That afternoon, while arranging bags of rice, Olivia heard the sound of car engines outside. At first, she didn't pay attention. Deliveries had become common lately. But when she stepped outside and saw the familiar black SUV, her heart skipped. The villagers began to whisper again. "It's the Lagos billionaire," someone said, "and his wife, the doctor." Olivia froze for a moment, wiping her hands on her apron. She didn't expect to ever see Jeremy again. But as the car door opened, there he was, tall, calm and composed as always. Sophia stepped out beside him, radiant in a white gown, her belly round with pregnancy. Olivia gasped softly. "Oh my God!" Sophia's face lit up when she saw her. "Olivia," she called warmly. Olivia rushed forward, her heart pounding. "Dr. Sophia, you're expecting." Sophia laughed gently. "Yes, we're finally blessed." Jeremy smiled beside her. "We came to see you," he said. "Mama Adana passed a message before she—" He paused, Olivia's breath caught. "Before she what?" Jeremy's eyes softened. "She passed away peacefully last month." The world seemed to stop for a moment. Olivia's lips trembled. "No." "Mama Adan." Sophia took her hand gently. She was surrounded by love. Her last words were about you. Olivia covered her mouth as tears rolled down her face. "About me?" Jeremy nodded. She said, "Tell Olivia that forgiveness is not weakness. It's proof that love still wins, even after pain." Olivia's tears fell freely. She sank slowly to her knees, her voice shaking. "She forgave me even in death." Sophia knelt beside her and hugged her tightly. "She did more than forgive you. She prayed for your happiness." Jeremy placed a small white box on the counter beside them. Inside was a folded letter and a silver necklace. Olivia opened it with trembling hands. The necklace had a small charm shaped like a heart and engraved with the word grace. The letter, written in Madame Adana's familiar handwriting, read, "My daughter, I am leaving this world at peace because I know you found yours. I have seen the light in you return, the light that anger once dimmed. You are proof that people can change. Use your hands to feed others and use your heart to heal." Olivia's sobs filled the quiet shop. Jeremy placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "She believed in you more than you believed in yourself." Olivia nodded, clutching the letter to her chest. "She saved me, Jeremy, twice, first by forgiving me and now by reminding me to live with love." Sophia smiled softly. "That's why we came, Olivia. Mama's dream was to open a small foundation here in the village. A health and food outreach. We want you to manage it." Olivia blinked. "Me?" Jeremy nodded. "Yes. Mama wanted it that way. You already know what hunger feels like, and what grace can do. You're the right person." Tears spilled again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Sophia said with a laugh. "We'll build it right beside your shop. We'll call it the Adana Foundation, where kindness lives." Olivia couldn't stop smiling. She nodded eagerly. "Yes, yes, I'll do it." The villagers who had gathered outside began to clap, cheering at the news. Children danced, drummers appeared from nowhere, and the air filled with joy. Madame Sarah stood in the doorway, her eyes bright with pride. "My daughter," she whispered, "you've turned your pain into purpose." Olivia hugged her mother tightly. "Mama, I'm finally free." Months later, the Adana Foundation opened officially. A large banner hung over the building, reading, "Changing Lives Through Kindness." Olivia stood beside Jeremy and Sophia as the ribbon was cut. Cameras flashed, villagers clapped and sang. Sophia, now holding a beautiful baby girl in her arms, smiled proudly. "We named her Juliana," she said softly, "after Mama's favorite hymn." Olivia's eyes widened. "She's beautiful." Madame Sarah reached forward and gently carried the baby, her hands trembling with joy. "Ah, my child," she said through tears, "this is the greatest prayer answered, a baby born from forgiveness." Olivia smiled and touched the baby's tiny hand. "You're a reminder that love wins in the end." Jeremy placed his arm around Sophia, "and that even broken hearts can build something beautiful." The crowd cheered. Music filled the air. Children ran around with balloons printed with the words, "Be kind, forgive. Begin again." As Olivia stood there, the sunlight warmed her face. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Mama Adana. Your grace lives on." A soft wind brushed her cheek, gentle, almost like a blessing. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like the woman who made a terrible mistake. She felt like the woman who turned it into a miracle. And as the laughter and songs filled the air, Olivia finally understood. Forgiveness was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of her legacy. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.